Hey everyone, in this time around I wanna give some feedback about Mariachi Legends. It is a metroidvania that is being developed by Halberd Studios. I don't usually back projects because oftentimes I hear that they scam people or things like that. But yeah, as a Mexican I wanna see this video game succeed. Not sure they will look at this video, but in case they do it, these were my findings and thoughts about the pre-alpha. Let's begin with technical issues. I had two of them. In one occasion for some reason my inputs stopped working. I was only able to move left and right, but I wasn't able to attack, jump or other things like that. So I had to reset the game. And while moving around seems like a fatal error occurred. Click OK to terminate. Aside from that, I had no other issues. Now, as it is a small demo, let's call it that way, it is kinda hard to guess where the game is trying to move forward, so I'll just share some of my ideas. Currently, as you can explore but one area, I cannot really say if this is going to be a true metroidvania. I mean, a side-scroller with RPG elements and plenty of areas, where you will eventually backtrack to keep proceeding. Which video games can I call true metroidvanias with kinda similar ideas? Of course, one of the fathers in the genre, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I haven't played them, but seems like Hollow Knight and Silksong are kinda similar, so they also count I guess. And After Image is another excellent example, just to name a few. On this front, and of course my personal opinion, this genre shines the most when it has plenty of areas to explore, and it doesn't hold your hand, being able to lose yourself in a vast world, where you slowly but surely get stronger by beating enemies, finding hidden chests and so on. That is what attracts my attention the most. And so far, I can say that I liked that there were multiple hidden areas. I mean, they want you to find them, but the way in which some hidden passages were covered was quite creative, and despite being a relatively small place, I believe there were several surprises for those with attentive eyes. Needless to say that a rich Metroidvania has some of those "how in the actual heck do I enter that room?" moments. While perhaps cliché ideas, it is always interesting to see some of those executions from time to time. As the door where you need to move 4 cogs between 2 different rooms, or having a specific number of coins, like 777. An idea I've always found interesting is when devs add plenty of weapons, skills, magics and things like that. However, there is a fine balance that has to be kept in mind, and that is giving the player the chance to choose if they wanna take the up close and personal path, or if they wanna use magics. On that front, I believe Bloodstained landed some amazing ideas, depending if you farmed some monsters and of course use the right equipment. Right now there were some sub-weapons and something like a magic. I guess it is going to be worked out in a similar way, due to the slots you have while equipping things. On another note, I am sure it is being worked, but yeah, adding some numbers and colors helps the player catch if something is increasing or decreasing stats while changing things. I mention this because right now there were no colors or numbers aside from stat changes. While looking at the stat windows, there's multiple things that caught my eye, as I just let my imagination fly regarding attributes, like what will they add there? Something like if you deal certain kind of damage? The kinds of status ailments you have at hand? Just please, if you guys add weapons with different status ailments, at least give them useful powers, cause oftentimes you cannot poison bosses, or inflict ailments, so those weapons end up feeling like wasted potential, considering that more often than not you end up using pure raw damage. On this front, battles like Galamoth will be quite entertaining to have. I mean, powerful bosses that need to be tackled in different and creative ways. Otherwise, it also ends up feeling like you can brute force your way through the whole game. In any case, so far I like this combat-oriented idea they have. I hope they add more of those combos. Perhaps some weapon skills like in Castlevania, where you need to make some new moves with the pad and things like that to execute some special attacks. With that idea in mind, I believe Mariachi Legends could be quite interesting, as there were multiple ideas regarding weapons and stuff like that, so the number of options, at least on paper, sounds promising. As for the images, scenarios and other things like that, I got amazed by the number of details each place has. Yes, it is true that some backgrounds are used a number of times, but the details you can see in each place are quite amazing, as waterfalls, some signs stating exit, danger and things like that. of course in Spanish. The kind of movement each enemy has, or even that little animation while you respawn after being beaten, that puppeteer animation was simply gorgeous. And the fact that some areas have changes between day and night due to some boss moves was beautiful too. I gotta say that I love its pixelated art. So far, I believe it has really good executions. If there is another thing I would change or try to improve, it would be the bosses. I enjoy this fight, but if I am honest, fighting a boss with the same moves the whole time feels kinda lifeless after a while. I know the multi-stage bosses have been used a freaking lot since they became popular, but to be honest, I don't mind that, as they make these kinds of battles much more dynamic, and they don't have to be that complex, or things like that. Sometimes changing patterns or mixing some attacks is good enough. I am glad I had the chance to give it a look at this game. While it has been some time since it was announced, I am happy to see that Halberd Studios isn't rushing the game, and I hope to see the same level of detail in future demos or things like that. De todo corazón les deseo éxito. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.